Now this is a controller. It is a modified controller. It's a Toshiba VF S11 10 horsepower variable frequency drive. Well, it was, until I modified it with bigger current sensors, bigger IGBT modules down there, bigger gate resistors and capacitors for the gate drivers. And it has the 6,000 microfarad capacitors in series parallel. This is a voltage input cable from the battery pack. This is a voltage input to the gate driver board. This, of course, is the control board, and this cable here will receive a signal from this switch there, and up is forward, middle is neutral, down is reverse. And this cable here receives a signal from the potentiometer that is run by the accelerator pedal. And currently this controller will put out something like 100 horsepower into the motor until it saturates, of course. Now this is the messy part. This is in the back of the van. These are the batteries. These are not the same batteries that I was running before. These are actually 18 amp hour batteries now, and there are 50 of them in the series, center tap series. So there's 25 over here, and they're in series with 25 over there. So the voltage between all of them is 600 volts. And it is in center tapped in the back. That wire there runs all the way up here into the mess, as I like to call it. This is the contactor setup, and this is a main contactor that connects the batteries to the motor controller. That is a pre-charge contactor, and these two ceramic resistors on the outside here are the pre-charge resistors. So the power comes in on the right side and it goes out on the left side, and the resistors act as a bypass to that contactor. So when the ignition key is turned on to the accessory position, that contactor comes on and bypasses this one through those resistors in series. So it slowly brings up the voltage to the motor controller, and then the on position triggers that contactor, which brings on full power. Over here is the input rectifier. There's, on that far right terminal, is 240 volts AC, and to the left, red's positive, black is negative. That'll be 680 volts DC. Now the other 240 volt lead is connected into the middle terminal there, which is then connected to the center tap there of that battery bank. So that acts like a diode voltage doubler. Over here, this is another rectifier which connects to another battery pack, and that battery pack runs that drive, which runs the power steering pump. And that contactor there, when the ignition switch is in the accessory position, it connects the auxiliary battery to the drive, and when the ignition switch is in the on position, it runs that contactor, which commands the drive to start. This is the motor, and I've got a better conduit on it, and the coupler there, still essentially the same coupler. It's a 15 horsepower motor, it's 6 poles, and it is an IEC motor size 160L. There's not much interesting happening under the hood, but this is one of the things. These are the power supplies that charge the 12 volt battery to operate the contactors and all the other normal vehicle accessories. And down here is the power steering pump, which is, well, also the hydraulic pump for the hydraulic brakes, since they are not vacuum operated. They run by that little thing right there. That little canister there has a gas charge of nitrogen in it, and this hydraulic pump pushes a little piston that compresses that charge. And when you push on the brake pedal, it releases that charge, into the master cylinder by way of a piston. So this is a hydraulic pump that runs that system, and yeah, it's just a hydraulic pump, 3 horsepower, 240 volts, nothing special about it. This is actually the heater for the van. It is behind the passenger seat. The stock heater would only work to defrost the windows if it brought in fresh outside air, which when it's very cold outside, that's just a total waste of energy. So I made this, which is a little better. It's got 2 strip heaters and a blower in the back and a little shroud for it, so it'll keep the air blown across the heaters, and it blows out from under the passenger seat, and it will output about 3.5 kilowatts, and it does defrost the windshield and everything pretty well. One last little part is this relay, which stops the motor controller when the brake pedal is pressed. So if I press on the brake pedal, it actually opens, and when I release the brake pedal, it closes again. And as you can see, the windshield has finally been replaced on this van. That was not an easy job, but it is done. So that about does it for the van, and if you have any more questions about it, you can feel free to message me, email me, or comment on the videos. I'll see you again soon.